Well, good morning, KingdomPreneurs. How are you today? It is day 28 of our 30 days of pulling energy or energy pulls to create the space that you desire. Day 28 of 30 days of pulling energies. That's really phenomenal. And I want to talk to you today about what are your capacities with energies for creating business or business enterprises precisely. Again, my name is Satella DeVeaux. I am a KingdomPreneur, spiritual entrepreneur that works with spiritual entrepreneurs, creative entrepreneurs, healers, seekers, small and medium-sized business owners and enterprise owners to do what? To help you unlock your divine soul scroll, to unlock your purpose and mission as to why you're here, and to step into that, to be you, show up in that space, being you, being brilliant, being great, and then putting a system around that to monetize it, because your gift that's in your divine scroll is what creates your revenue and income source for you. And as I said, I want to talk today about what are your capacities to with energies for creating an enterprise, creating a business that will have impact. One of the questions that I want you to ask yourself, but actually, before I give you that question, I want to tell you a story. Yesterday, I was in a training session all day for aquaponics. Aquaponics is a system where of growing fish and vegetables symbiotically in a recirculating system. And the reason that's significant, because when we talk about what are your capacities for creating with energies for business, is because the whole concept of aquaponics for me has a lot to do with what's on my divine scroll, which is to be as an apostle of entrepreneurship, an architect of entrepreneurship, a serial entrepreneur, which is why I call myself, because all of that is bound up in what I call for myself a KingdomPreneur. And that is because I'm here on a divine mission with a divine purpose to show up being me and having great impact in the world. But sometimes we struggle in life because we stay in the energy of how can something be done? How can I get this done? How can I afford this? How can I pay for this training? How can I go and how can I create this particular enterprise if I can't get to the training to learn? And this isn't just one of those things that you can just, arbitrarily pick up and just go and do it. You have to go and get, some training. For me, because I live in the Bahamas, the training would cost somewhere around $4,000 to $5,000. And when you have to consider, where do I get the money? And then when I get the money, I have other responsibilities. How do I just go and take the money and spend it on that particular training? And the other issue with that is that most times we as entrepreneurs, and particularly visionary and creative entrepreneurs, our visions are so big, and most times your family does not believe you or will not support you because they cannot really see the vision. And oftentimes that's because they're not operating in that energy. And you're here, you're trying to survive in this energy, you're trying to operate in this energy, and you're trying to do some things. And because you're operating from a vibrational energy that's fluctuating all the time, because you're in the how, and the how keeps you in a negative energy of desperation and need, and not really believing in what you're pursuing. And when there's that aspect of unbelief, you keep nullifying the very thing that you're trying to create. And so there's this level of frustration that most entrepreneurs walk in, because you're like, I know what I want to do. I believe I know what I want to do, but I can't seem to get it done. I want to create this online business. I want to have impact. I want to create this business enterprise around healing, around counseling, around coaching, or creating some kind of online enterprise. And yet, I, you know, I don't know who my customers are, my clients are, my soulmate clients or customers. There's all these different things that we're struggling with. And the reason we're struggling is because we're not congruent. And remember, we learned that you ask and you receive. And when you ask and receive, believe that you've received it. And stay in that belief, stay in that vibration, frequency, because the moment you step out of it, you're not going to actualize anything, manifest what you're looking for. And if you do happen to bring something forward, it's going to have that vibrational signature in it that says, I'm not certain that I should be here. And it's not really coming from a place of you pulling energy with ease and creating, but it's coming from a push and a force energy of trying to prove to people and yourself that you're valid in what you're doing. And that's not a space that you want to be operating from. Okay? And so, sorry. But yesterday, let me go back a bit. Last year, I think around September, I said to myself, you know what? I asked myself a question. Is this something that I've been carrying around for about 7, 8 years that I've wanted to do? Researching and looking at it, and then made a decision that, okay, I want to do this. But even though I made that decision, as I said, I was still in that energy of question from a negative perspective of how can I do this? How can I afford it? And then if I get the training, if I do the training, it was all these ifs. And the ifs don't help you when it's coming from the negative vibration. If I get this, if, then it was, how am I going to pay for it? The project is so huge, the project is so big, it's going to cost so much money. And you just work yourself up into this frenzy. Well, last year, September, because Yahweh, the Creator, had been talking to me about receiving. And you remember yesterday I spoke about getting out of the vibration of expectation, because expectation isn't really believing, because you're still waiting for something to happen. Whereas receiving, being a receptor, receiving of what you've asked, when you asked for it, when you demanded it of yourself and created it, is a very different energy. To be, or capacity to create from. What is a capacity? It's an ability to do. When the Creator says to us, it is Yahweh that gives you power to get wealth. That word power right there it's speaking about capacity. In other words, he's saying, I have given you the capacity to get wealth. Wealth is not only money. It's health, it's abundance, it's shalom, it's peace, it's all of these different things. And he says, I'm the one, I'm sorry, mommy. I'm the one that has given you power to have the capacity to get wealth. Because when you create this entity, when you create this enterprise that you are desirous of doing to have impact in the world, and obviously income and revenue is going to come out of that. That's another energy to be in. And he says, if you can understand that energy from the perspective of ask, you make a demand of yourself, you know what it is that you're asking for. And this is why clarity is so important in the creating and your capacity to create. Because when you're in that if vibration of uncertainty and need and lack of belief, you are creating, but you're creating a negative environment of confusion and chaos. And a lot of the things that you want to birth and actualize into the world will not happen. And it leaves you in this cycle, sometimes for years, of frustration. And so here am I, wanting to do this training for years and not being able to do it. And I shifted because he said, I want you to receive the training. I don't want you to think it as a possibility out there that could happen. Remember we spoke about infinite possibilities? But infinite possibilities always coming from the perspective of a receipt of knowing is different from, oh, it might be possible. I'm hoping, I'm expecting, maybe it can happen. I don't know. Maybe something will show up. Maybe a cousin of mine from somewhere will send me some money. Maybe I'll win the lottery or something like that. And, you have all of these hopes and expectations, but not really a reality of something showing up because you've ordered it from the creation. I stepped into that space where I said, you know what? I am going to this training next year. And I went online and I looked and I found there was one coming up in March. I think it was going to be in Oregon. And so I live in the Bahamas. So a round trip ticket from here for me is like $300 and some dollars. And that would, if I flew out, it's going to be around $300 and some dollars. If I get a flight that's in the morning and I can get a connecting flight directly into wherever it is I'm going, my connecting flight is probably going to be like $200, $100 and some dollars. So I'm already at $500 and I haven't even I've just gotten off my island into Fort Lauderdale. If I cannot get a connecting flight, then that means I have to overnight at a hotel. That's probably another $100 or so. So I'm about $500-$600 now. And of course, I have to pay prepaid for the training session. Most of the aquaponics training sessions are either 3-day events or 5 days events. If you're going for 3 days, is around $1,800. Some $500-$600 just to get out of my country into Fort Lauderdale, to fly out to another state, plus the $1,800. That's not my hotel for 3 days, maybe 4 days, because in most cases, you have to get there a day before so that you can be ready for the morning. So I'm looking at 4 to 5 days in the hotel, which could be another $400 or $500, depending because if I go for 3 days, I'm really going for 5. That's not the rental car, and that's not food. breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So for me to go to this training was around a $4,000 to $5,000 investment. And when you're trying to do that from a space when you were uncertain, you're not going to actualize it. But I stepped into a space where I said, you know what? I am doing this. And I spoke from that place where I became congruent in my choosing of doing this. And when I did that, and I looked at it, and I settled into that reality, and I created it. And what I did is I spoke, I said to Yahweh, the Creator, this is done. And I asked the question, is this still something that I should still be engaging with? Is the time for me to pursue this past? The answer was no. Okay, it's still in the vibrational flow to pursue. So I'm doing this course in March. And of course, I started looking around at the hotels. I started checking out, the flights and all of that, the connecting and everything. I'm sorry, my eye seems to be running water here. And so I made that determination. I made that decision. I chose that this was what I was doing. And I was not in a space, if I'm going to do it, maybe I'm going to do it, I'm hoping to do it. No, I chose it. I made a demand of myself. I stepped into that demand. I asked, I received, I believed, and I stayed in that vibration. I'm talking about creating capacities for your business or enterprise, whether it's online or offline, doesn't matter. What happened was the synchronicities of my being at one month with that choosing to do that particular training. Again, how the universe, the creation works it out for you. When you let it go, you give it space to bring it to pass. What happened for me very quickly, I told you in one of the other videos, I was out doing some banking. I was supposed to go one day, end up some things happening. I said, no, I'm not going today, I'll go tomorrow. Why did that happen? Because if I'd gone the first day, I would have not met the connection. I went to the bank. I'm standing on the line. There's a man standing in front of me. When I walk up to the line, he's a foreigner. And there's a lady speaking to him. He's ordering his lunch. She's going to get it while he's still in the bank, going to do some transaction. He turns around and I see an emblem that's on his shirt. And I said to him, because I recognize that you're from this particular organization, we get to talking. It's Aika. As we get to talk, excuse me, he invites me to a training, a speech that he's doing, a presentation. I go to the presentation the next day, and I actually end up engaging with these people, even as of today. That was in February. Now remember, last year, I made that determination. I chose, I demanded of myself, I stepped into that energy. This project is still going forward. And if this project is still going forward, this training now must manifest itself. It must be actualized. I looked, I found where one was being done. I checked all of the information. I wrote it down. And I began to just be one with that choosing, that determination that was made. And so I meet him. In meeting him, I meet someone else who is actually has the capacity and the connectivity to put on an aquaponics training. Not only to put it on, but to put it on here in my island in the Bahamas. We're talking about creating. We're talking about, remember we spoke about receiving everything, embracing nothing, creating from the space of the Yod of Yahweh. And that's what I did. And so when I was congruent with what I was creating, all of the creation began to say, okay, we need to bring this together. And the best way to do this gentleman is going to be in the Bahamas doing a training for apiary beekeeping, which I began to step into and learn and now can add to my project. And we get in a discussion standing on the line in the bank. He makes an invitation to me. I accept the invitation. I go to the presentation. I'm at the presentation. He introduces me to the lady I saw him in the bank with. Vibrational match. We begin to vibe and click and through having conversations and talking. And I said to her, you know, would you be interested? Listen to the question. Would you be interested in having an aquaponics training? And she said, yes, I've been wanting to do one of those here for a long time. I said, well, listen, why don't we do it? Oh man, the match, the energy. I'm telling you, this was like freaking phenomenal. And so here we are, we're agreeing on this. We set the date, listen to me, for March. We set the date for March. Now, this is, remember we talk about being a receptor of receiving, both the negative and the good, and being able to pull the energy through you, being aware of everything, but not taking anything on that's from a negative perspective, just being aware, thanking for the awareness. What happened? Long story short, it got interrupted. It did not happen in March, but it happened in April. What I'm saying is a $4,000 to $5,000 training that I ordered when I made a determination and chose to move forward on it no matter what, not from a place of desperation or need, but speaking from a place of absolute creating. I know that I created it, and I know because I asked the question, is this something that's still a vibrational match for me? If it is, then yes, let me pursue it. And because it was a yes, and I stepped into that, everything began to flow towards me. And it flowed to me in such a way that I did not even have to leave my country to do the training that I've been trying to do for 7 years that would have cost $5,000. Now shows up. Excuse me. Now shows up. And yesterday, I was in that training. And this morning, I will be in the second half of that training that concludes. If I had to pay the value that the creation, the universe brought me, because I asked Yahweh, was a $5,000 training, and not only for myself, because we extended the training to other people. There were over 20 people in that class yesterday, including my business partner, who, when we were first looking at this, only one of us would have been able to go to the training initially. So in truth, not only did I create it, but I created it at an $8,000 level because the two of us were in that training yesterday and will be in it this morning. Not only that, it gets even better. Because now what we've done, this was just the first phase of the training. Because remember, I said to you, if I went away, it was 3 days. And that was just basically the educational theory and the class all day, learning the terminologies and the knowledges, the parts, the system, and then 2 days of hands-on. And if you wanted to learn the business side of it, that was another $500 for one more day. What has happened is we did the training, we're doing the training, we're in the midst of it right now. I'm going to upload some pictures. And then next month, we're going to do a second round of trainings with another person. And guess what happened? These people are right here in the Bahamas. And so we're going to do a training with a guy out of Nassau that's already stepped into this space, operating in it, and doing phenomenal, and is willing to train. So that's another $8,000 because both my partner and I will be in that training. So in total, we created a $16,000 value. And we didn't have to pay for it. So when I ask you, what are your capacities with energies for creating businesses, business enterprises? Why was that significant? Because the whole reason I am a KingdomPreneur is to make a contribution and to have impact, not only to make money for myself, but to be a transformational, transmutive force and impact for good in my community, in my environment, and in the global community at large. This is a part of the big project that I've created. This is only a portion of it. This portion alone with aquaponics, because they're not talking old school agricultural processes. We're talking new technologies. We're talking, when I say if here, what we're going to do, because we started this from the perspective of food security and job creation. There are 4,000 kids every year that graduate every June in my country. And they need work because not everybody's going to go off to school. Some people will remain, some people will come back. Where's the employment? Because if you don't have employment for them, you're creating an environment for crime. So when you talk about your big vision is, because I know I'm speaking to people whose big vision isn't just you and your little self in your little world. It's to have a contribution. It's about empowering other people. This is what the munificent kingdom capitalist financier is about. Why am I saying that? Because this training now allows us to step forward even further into our project. And it allows us to know this was the breaking of that project, the whole vision coming into its actualization. Because a 2-acre aquaponics facility will create 32. Do you understand what I'm saying? What are your capacities with energies for creating business enterprises? This facility is going to create, you hear me? 32 jobs, well-paying jobs. Because my partner and I, have made a determination and an agreement with Yahweh when we create these enterprises. For us here in the Bahamas, that we would pay people starting at $12 an hour. And I know in America, most of you are trying to go up to $15 or $17 an hour. But everything is relative for where you are. $12 in this community is very good. And so that's where we said when we were creating this, that's where we start. And so one of the things then we have to ask of our creation that we are creating, what market supply lines are available to us to not only create, but to sustain on a continuous basis, not only 32 people, because our initial concept in creating this is that we want to create at least 50 jobs on that side of the project alone. And so we asked the question, what? Let me put on my glasses so I can read this to you, because this is a question that you need to ask yourself. Ask your community, our community right here where we are in the Bahamas. And when we did this desire for food security, it came as food security first. Because most everything is imported into our country. So when you ask your community and your environment to show you what are the opportunities that are available for you, ask your community what capacities of opportunities are available to you in your business as a sustainable income and revenue producing source that's a contribution to both you and the community for job creation and entrepreneurial pursuits. Let me repeat it. Ask your community what capacities of opportunities are available to you in your business as a sustainable income and revenue source that's a contribution to both you and your community for job creation and entrepreneurial opportunities. And so we were pulling energy when we didn't even know the terminology pulling energy, because we were pulling this project. This is why write the vision, make it plain, understand the operational. When we begin to learn about what are our soulmate clients and customers, and so when we ask who will be the buyers, who will be the market, and so we started to create the market. We started to create. And see, the reason I'm excited is because we now know that those markets are there. Yesterday, even in the when we wrote our business plan, when we did the market research, we knew that there were markets. But we even learned some things yesterday that we didn't even know. And that's just one component, little area of our big vision. Remember, the gentleman I spoke to in the bank was here to do a training on apiary beekeeping. That's a $21 million or $2,100 million industry in my country that's being imported. So just 1%, 2-3% of that, that's another set of creation of employment, of jobs for those 500 students. That's another set of entrepreneurial opportunities for those who would want to take it on and become owners in that space. So when I add the apiary to the aquaponics, and we're in the Bahamas where people come to visit, and we can take you on to an agro-tourism, food to table process we're creating. So we're somewhere between 100 jobs already, because that's just two aspects of a whole big project that has other things included in it. So ask yourself those questions. Pull, and if you get something that says no, it might be telling you no, don't pursue it right now, because everything is not conspiring to come towards you. There's not a vibrational match for it at the moment. But if you get the yes, okay, yes, go ahead. Because you're creating from this perspective. And this applies to anything. It applies to the house. It applies to the relationship that you might want to step into, that you want to have. And we're talking about business here. So when you ask the question, and what do I mean ask the community? First, you're asking energetically. Because what started this for us is I asked the question. I was out for a morning walk, and I said to the Father, I said, Yahweh, show me what is in our community. What is here on this island right now that is an opportunity to step into? And he started, all of a sudden, aquaponics, I'd never even heard of it, started showing up in my space. All of a sudden, conversations about, food security, and it's very important that as a nation that we can sustain ourselves and not be dependent on exports from other countries, but that we have the capacity here to feed ourselves. And so it started from the space of being able to feed our nation. And so when I asked the question of what was here on the island of Grand Bahama, I actually got an answer that was for the whole nation. And then to export from here out into the global community. So when you look around where you are, even if you're creating something online, I'm going to create online businesses. We are a nation that is surrounded by water, so we're really a maritime nation. We have not even begun to step into that space. So when I had a vision, and I literally saw the words maritimes coming down out of the heavens towards me several years ago. When I started to look into the maritime arena, it was massive, overwhelmingly so. I didn't even, I went to one or two trainings and tried to Google and YouTube some stuff. It was like they were speaking Martian language. I could not grasp what they were saying. And I'm like, where do you start? But when you ask that question, the Creator starts showing you things, start putting things in your spirit that's pulling you in a particular area or direction. He started talking to me about logistics and maritime security. That's online. And when I began to research that out, that's another area that can create employment. There's so much in your environment that you haven't seen yet because you weren't looking for it. But when you start to ask the question, what is in my environment? What is in my community? What is in my state? What is in my island? What is in the region that I can step into and be a contribution for goodness, not only to myself, but to the community, to my state, to my island, to my nation, and to the region, and even the global community. Whether I'm doing it online or offline, because I told you we will have a combination of both for what we are doing. What are you doing, KingdomPreneurs? What are you doing, creative entrepreneurs? How creative can you be? Ask. Do you really want to be operating from a munificent place of goodness and serving your community? Having an impact in your community? You see, because it becomes way bigger than you. Because we've looked at our project, and we knew in our project we wanted to attach, because I used to work in urban renewal. I wanted to attach, I remember going into the court system or going into the schools for delinquent children and what have you. And I came across a training in a community that said, you know what, let's take these kids before they become hardened criminals and give them something, some skills, some training. So we're looking at a plan, and what we're doing is we're writing a resource that was brought to us to being a contribution, creating. And so we're saying from our business, we're going to our government, and we're saying we want nonviolent first or second time offenders. We've spoken with the educational system that would allow the psychologists to come in and do some training with us, with these people. We're creating an environment where they can come in, because we're trying to take care of our food security issue. We're looking at the maritime opportunities that are available to young people. We're working with the system to saying, how can we expunge someone who's been arrested? Don't give them a criminal record. Instead of giving them a criminal record, let's create a program or system that we can filter them through. We can deal with their anger issues. We can deal with their frustrations. We can give them some life skills and training, leadership training, good citizenship trainings. Will some fall through the cracks? Yes. But will others take the opportunity and see how, who does not want to become an entrepreneur, the munificent kingdom capitalist financer? Because we're creating a space where we can say, not only in this type of agriculture where you're not out back breaking yourself, but you're using a modern technology, but not only that, what are the technological opportunities available? A lot of these kids on mobile, they know how to create apps. And so why don't we have an institute that we create that teaches that type of technology, and AG, which is augmented reality type of app development and creation. When you begin to look, what are your capacities for creating with energies for business enterprises that are a contribution to you, to the community? Yes, because you want to be munificent, but you also, what is munificent? Goodness, benevolent, magnanimous, open-handed, liberal, philanthropic, all of those different things. What are your capacities? What is in your environment? What is in the environment? Ask the question, what is in your community? What is in your environment? What are you seeing that you haven't seen before from this perspective that will have an impact on your community? For goodness, what are your capacities, KingdomPreneurs? And so ask yourself that question and then begin to pull. Let's do that right now. As we wind down, let's pull the energies. Let's pull in the capacities to ourselves for our community, for our state, our island, to create, to be a contribution, income, sustainable, producing enterprises that pay people well, that create a culture and a respect. Pull that energy in. Ask what kind of online and offline enterprises that I can create that are not only a benefit to me, but to the community. You don't have to be stuck in running any of these enterprises, because in the pulling of it, you're also pulling in your soulmate staff, your soulmate employees, the persons who are passionate about the young people, who are passionate about wanting to give back. What about those people that are retiring in their communities? And what if you show up in that space and begin to present opportunities for other people to step into? You don't have to do it all. Pull the energy of collaboration. Pull the energy, because you'll begin to find there are other people in your community that you know, other people in your community that you don't know, that want to do the same thing. Where's the spirit of collaboration? Don't be selfish. Don't be a hoarder. Don't want to be the person that I want to be the one to do it. No, be a part of the community. Be a facilitator in the community, for goodness. What are your capacities? With energies for creating phenomenal business enterprises. And when you pull that energy, just pull it and expand yourself out to your community, beyond your community, to your whole state, to the nation, to the region, and to the global community. Pull, expand out. And I want you to see that one little particle. Maybe there are more than one. And receive now those sustainable, economical, income, revenue producing enterprises that are a win-win situation for you, for the soulmate customers and clients, for the soulmate employees that will operate with you to run this enterprise. See them, embrace them, see everything that you need, everything that you require. Embrace it, and then let it go. That's receive everything, embrace nothing. That's how you create. Because when you let it go now, you're allowing it to come back. And watch how things are going to show up that resonate from where you want to create from. Now, if this video resonated with you, what I want you to do is to like and subscribe, make comments. Remember, this is our YouTube channel, KingdomPreneur, Alchemy of Entrepreneurship and Wealth. We also have our Facebook group with the same name, KingdomPreneur, Alchemy of Entrepreneurship and Wealth. Please like and join the Facebook book group over there. Remember, we are having a training sessions in May starting on the 12th. They're $275. Please register and train. Let me know. Send me an email. Check out my website, SatellaDeVeaux.com, and you can go to the training section and register. This is the kind of stuff we're going to be delving into in a deeper way. I love you, Kingdompreneurs, and I'll see you tomorrow for day 29 of our 30 days of pulling energy. That was phenomenal just now. Normally I say good night. I'm saying good morning today.